Welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero, helping military, veterans, and first responders transform their lives from the bedroom to boardroom. Catch us on Facebook, YouTube, eventually Padapalo. We're on the Easy Way Wall. We're on Roku. We are everywhere, and it's awesome, and we're continuing to grow. So, we hope that you are ready for today because guess what? September's finally here, and you're like, oh no, or oh yeah, depending on where you're at in the United States. If you're in virtual school apocalypse, you're like, oh. If you're in a state that's doing in residence, you're like still kind of at the same time. And fall gets us to start thinking of school typically, right? We usually get excited. It's the most opportune time of the year. We're like, yeah, but this world has totally changed, right? And our kids' education is important, and they're going to be starting in school real soon, at least for us. They're starting on September 8th. But what is going to be remembered most of this year or years past or anything else? I'm pretty sure it's not the math. What really it is your marriage. Your marriage is going to be the example of what they're going to go over and see and go over and thrive on. So we're going to be talking about today just the two of us, because what happens is that after those 12 years go by, your kids mosey on, maybe go to college, and life goes on. So this month we're focusing on vision, and today we're focusing on vision in the bedroom, because if you don't have vision in the bedroom, things go over and die really, really quickly. So I have a question for you, which is probably not asked too often. Do you have a vision for marriage? Because if you don't have a vision for marriage, typically what goes over and happens is that you just trudge along. You go over and you get married and you have the goal for having kids. Kids are in your life for about 20 years and you start working shoulder to shoulder and you're like, everything's going just fine. But what happens is at the same time is now you're in two different directions. One person's at the home, one person's somewhere else, and they just keep going over and pushing. And if you don't have a vision for your marriage, if your bedroom, the most sacred place, is not taken care of, you're going to look at each other and be like, who are you? Who are you? Screw you. And that's what typically happens. And now it goes even faster. The average divorce rate is in 4 years. Now, the divorce rates are not as high as you think they are. That's another show, another time. But the thing is that what typically happens is that when you're both looking at opposite directions, what happens is everything goes awry, and you only stay for the typical, hey, it's for the kids. It's more than for the kids. It's a legacy from the bedroom into the living room and outside the boardroom. So it carries into generations to come. The average marriage goes over and carries 2 to 4 generations out. Same thing, it goes over in divorce. You go over and follow that, and the next generation looks like, well, my parents did this. So you become a product of that. That's anything usually positive or negative. It carries out into generations fold. Sometimes it carries up into 10 generations. So do you have vision for your marriage? Because vision for your marriage is refreshing. Just like my mug of water as I'm going over and training in this particular realm, the same thing happens in a marriage when it has vision. It's very refreshing in that regard. It's kind of weird at first because we usually don't talk about that. We go over and get married and we talk about like, hey, make sure you plan for kids and make sure you plan for your budget and all those types of things. But the overall vision for marriage is not something that's highly talked about. We talk about visions for business. We talk about visions for like, hey, what are you going to do when you graduate high school? When are you going to go over and get married? Those types of things. But we don't talk about the marriage vision specifically enough. So I wanted to go and bring that to a new level to go over and talk about. So let's go dive in. Without a vision or a dream, a people perish. You need a dream if you're going to succeed in anything you do. Mark Gorman talks about that paraphrased. And the people that go over and perish first is the husband and the wife. When that goes over and perishes, then the kids go over and perish. It might not be physically going over and dying, but we die inside when divorces go over and happen. Maybe this world has become numb to it, but I know for myself, when my parents went over and got divorced, it took a long time to go over and to recover. And I was the child of a divorce, not even just the parents of the divorce in that particular regard. The average impact of a divorce, minimally, to get some sort of normal, is 6 to 24 months. The actual impact of divorces can carry is generations to come. So the vision needs to start within the bedroom. If the most amount of energy and fervency is coming out of the bedroom and the relationships, guess what? Those kids are going to go carry that stuff into the living room and then out into their boardrooms and eventually into their bedrooms. And that's where legacies are built. If you've met families that have, husbands and wives together, they go over and see that, then you usually see that within the next generation because they're going to go over and take those values that they caught and then they're going to go over and live those things out more than what's taught. You can teach all the world to say, hey, I went over and I want you to do this. But if you're not living that out, it doesn't happen. So again, when a vision or dream happens, without it, it perishes. So why not start it today? So what does a vision for your marriage look like? This is inspired by madaboutmarriage.com. And I want you to start thinking about it. What does it look like for you? So I need you to come visit this room. I need you to be mentally here. So if you're watching this on the live and you don't have time to go over and process, I ask you to go over and watch this later because this is something that's kind of huge and big picture. And we're going to be expanding on that throughout the month, not just from today, the vision of the marriage. We're going to take that vision and bring that into the living room and bring that into the boardroom. And then we're going to even bring that into our interviews as a new concept. So if you want to interview on our show, start thinking about that because this month's interviews, I want to know what vision that you have for your bedroom to boardroom. Because if you don't have that, it doesn't matter what you have in anything else because it only carries so long. At the end of the day, when you go over and you die, you're not thinking about your boardroom. If you are, you're Scrooge McDuck. And he was awesome, but when he was broke, he wasn't so awesome. So let's go in a couple of things of what does a vision for your marriage go over and bring. It brings unity. You become one when you have a joint vision. For my military veteran first responder folks, you're used to having a mission and a vision that is brought into the unit. And it's supposed to cohesively go over and bring you as a family. Now, I come from the education and training realm. I have people that are executive officers. I have people that are commanders. I have people that are unit deployment managers. I have people that are under me. If you don't have a unified vision of what you want to go over and happen, you're just shooting circumstances. And when you have two people in a bedroom managing a living room full of kids, and then eventually pouring out into the boardroom, everything is then decided based on anything, and it brings disunity. Have you ever gone over and had disunity in the household? It does. One person has one direction of what they're going over and doing. The other person has another direction they're going over and doing, and it just doesn't go on well. So when you have a joint vision, you bring unity. It works great because then that vision from the bedroom then pours out into the living room. Parenting, for example, when you're both unified, things go well and they don't use you and say, Mom said this or Dad said this or whatever it is. So brings unity is key. Don't you want to be unified in the bedroom? Going from there, unity then goes over and can be brought into spirituality, into financial, and into professional. And when you go over and you have that in a marriage, you start going over, it makes it a lot easier to make decisions. Like financially, if one's a spender and one's a saver, and you're not unified in that front, you don't have a vision for that money, all that money can go into savings and hoard and never do anything for people. Or on the other side, you spend on everybody and then you see no legacy for the next generation on forward and through. I get requests all the time, either from bill collectors or people and doing certain things in that particular regard. If I'm not unified in my bedroom on what decisions I'm making fiscally, my spouse is going to be ticked. My kids are not going to have opportunities because if I keep going over and giving out what I have, I can't go over and bless the people I want to bless. The goals that I have and the dreams that I have, if they're not unified with my wife can go over and not stop them, but it can go make it a lot harder to go get to them. I remember when I wasn't unified with my dreams with my wife in the first place, it took her 8 months to get on board. Reason why is because I kept pushing one direction and I didn't give her the chance to actually live in the direction that I was going over and pushing towards. But when two people are pushing together towards that dream, towards that financial dream, that professional dream, that dream of what you want your spirituality to look like, no matter what it is, it goes a lot better. Two oxen can go over and pull 2,800 pounds. One oxen pulls 1,000. Why not have both be unified? Same thing happens in the military. The more people that are unified, the things get faster done. Multiplication is not even a factor in this particular regard when you have unity in these realms. Also, it helps you go over when you have, when you have a vision for your marriage, you stay on the right path. And that brings you back to things. Let's say finances, for example. You have an idea to go over and take a vacation, and you're unified in that mission, that vision to go over and say vacation next year, to have a wedding, a real wedding in 2022. That's our goal, June of 2022, after COVID, hopefully. If not, maybe we'll do it virtual in this bedroom. I don't know. But when you go over and you do that, then you can start making right steps into that right path. But when you don't have a plan, let's say fiscally or for plans or anything else, you tend to go different directions. And in that particular regard, sometimes when it's talking about a right path, it's the path you both decided to go over and go. So it keeps you on track. You know, people do not become millionaires by going over and making different decisions together. The couples that go over and thrive, let's say in retirement, that are in their 40s, 50s, and 60 years of marriage, is because they were making right path decisions, both going towards the same direction in a vision. It also gives you something positive to focus on, especially in this season, especially in troubled times. We're going through COVID, we're going through race riots, people are dying, people that we weren't expecting. Our lives have been ransacked by many different ways. We're constantly pivoting on a regular direction. If you have a long-term vision for your marriage starting in the bedroom, it makes it a lot easier when troubled times come because you both can go over and edify one another. You can build one another. You can bring courage to the relationship, and that goes over and helps you through. When you both are in separate directions and you're both not encouraging each other and you both have nothing positive look like, you both just sad, mopey people. That's not attractive. Actually, it's not attractive in general. That's why I usually do it, because it's funny. But so you have something positive to go look forward to instead of just being like, oh, woe is me, Eeyore, kicking yourself in the pants and going over. And when troubled times come, you need to be a unified front, because that's what's going to keep you through. We've almost been homeless 3 times. We've lost almost 3 kids in childbirth and things of that nature. If we didn't have something positive to go look on, even when those troubled times come, that's when suicide, that's when depression, those other types of things. And then marriages break and crumble apart. And we don't want that for you. So the question is, now that you're here and listening and you're like fully engaged, how do you start the vision? Because it's not commonplace to go over and do that. You don't go like, here comes the bride, now my vision's in white. That doesn't happen. So how do you go over and start this vision? First, you got to get your individual vision down first. That's most important. Because you don't want to be begrudgingly one person's like, this is my vision, I'm going to drag you with me. Doesn't usually work that way. I've done it. It fails miserably, just so you know. If you have to go over and say like, I need to figure that out, you really don't. I've already screwed the pooch several times. You don't need to go over and do it. That's why our parent businesses learn and live. We hope to be an example to you to go over and not walk that out. So get your individual visions down first. Now, the more active person in the relationship that's more outgoing, more people-oriented or task-oriented is naturally going to have a big vision. The reserved, sweet, sensitive person or cautious person might not have as big of a vision, but it needs to get out there. Where do they see themselves in different realms, in different ways? We'll jump into that in a minute. Now, once you get your individual visions down, then it's time to compare and to contrast. Not in a negative way, but going over and seeing where you go over and connect naturally because you did them individually, and then going over and contrasting and see where you go over and differ. Here's some of the categories that might challenge you to go over and to look at. Looking at spirituality, where you want to be in your growth and your faith. Financial goals, are you wanting to go over and own a house, not own a house? Want to rent for the rest of your life? Not want to rent for the rest of your life. Do you want to live paycheck to paycheck? Some people do. Some people don't in that particular regard. Do you want to be a millionaire, 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure business owner? Are you in the employee mentality or are you in the investor mentality? There's a drastic difference. What about lifestyle? Want to live it rich? Want to live near the ocean? Want to live in the middle of the United States? Want to travel? One of my ones is that I would love to travel every single month and to go over and to move. I'd have the same virtual bedroom. That's the beautiful thing about technology. But I would want to move every single month. Bam. Actually, if I was living in sweet places like this and better, I would go over and just use that as a background. So travel. You want to travel a lot, you want to travel a little, those types of things. What type of relationships do you have? What legacy you want to invest into? What type of people do you want to have a relationship with? Do you want to have a relationship with people that are rich, that are poor, that are struggling, not struggling? Do you want to be with the fluent and elite? What about parenting? That's huge. What do you want your kids to look like in 20 years? What things do you need to go and change or not change? What do you need to go over and take responsibility, not take responsibility for? There's many different realms of that. And even sex. Yep, I said it. I said it. Yep, even sex. Because you might not be unified on that front. What? I mean, because sex ties into kids and intimacy and how regularly you want to be connected. What do you want to see for that? Do you want to be 10 years down the road going over like once a week is fine for me? Person 10 years down the road is like 3 times was good for me. And I am severely, those are some of the categories you can go over and touch. Again, some topics are going to be easier than others. You want to go over and to tread with the proper stomping or soft approach, of course. And lastly, once you go over and start syncing up, then you can either pray, meditate, or reflect on it together because you need to become one. Your mind, your heart, and your soul needs to become one on this thing. That's how vision goes over and grows because there's going to be, you want to get there, right? If you're not there, mind, body, and soul, it's like dragging somebody. I did that for the first 7 years of my marriage. This is where I'm going. And at year 7, it was like, and it wasn't in hand to hand. It was a spiritual nut kicking. That's what it was for me. So when I went over and dragged my wife into what my vision was, she went for a while. Didn't go well. Passive aggressiveness doesn't go over and work well. And the realize is that she didn't even realize she was doing it. And I was the one begrudgingly dragging her with me. Doesn't work well. Does it? No. So once you go over and sync up, and this might not be in a day or a week or a month, it's not going to be instant, especially if you've never touched this concept, don't know what it's about. You're watching this for the first time via the hashtags, or you're on one of our streaming stations that are new, like on the Roku channel or on Twitch, and you're like, who is this guy in the virtual bedroom? It's not going to be usually quick. Now, obviously, when you sync it with prayer, meditation, and reflection, it can go better because now you're trying to both get on the same wavelength. So last and certainly not least, because there's no point of going over and planning this, is if you don't make it reality. Think, Pooh Bear. Pooh Board doesn't access it. No point. That's why sometimes Pooh doesn't get much stuff done. In both senses, taking it from Bear and from the other reference, of course. So how do you go make this a reality? How do you go over and do that? How do you make this thing to come in fruition? So you're looking at 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 years down the road, and you're like, it's 2061, like myself, and 80 years old, and saying, what's my legacy of marriage? Did our vision come to reality? How do you start this? And it doesn't matter if you're 5 or 50 years down the road. You're not dead yet. So you can start it. And you don't know when you're going to go over and die. So why wait to start it? First one, create a vision board. You don't have to do it paper, but you can do it electronic. You can do it on Pinterest. Maybe you go over and you take clippings and take it out, those types of things. Make a vision board. We kind of do this all the time at work. Where do I want to be in 5, 10 years? Oh, I want to be CEO of this. And I put pictures of Grant Cardone and all these people and I pin them to my board and everything. And you sit there proud going, we're like, yeah. But we don't go over and do that in marriage. That's going to carry. When you go over and die, you're not like, glad I went over and met that person. Whoosh. Typically not. So create that vision board. What do you want your sex life vision board look like? Relationship, parenting, lifestyle, travel. Name the topic you want to go. Put them all on there. Create that vision board. Digital, paper. Go old school and grab newspapers and clip them out. Kiddos, if you're watching, a newspaper is a paper edition of what CNN.com looks like. So create that vision board. And I'm just having fun with you. You probably know what a newspaper is. So going from there, make small goals for each section. Because you can go over and say grandiose, like, hey, I want a vacation every single year. But how do you get there? In the vacation realm, follow John Rankin, great veteran buddy to go over and follow on going on vacations, especially when things start opening up. We hope that it does. I don't want the vacation industry to go away. That keeps us energized. So make those small goals for each section. How do I get to be a better lover? Got to make small goals for that. How do I be a better communicator? Small goals for that. How do I go over and be better financially? Small goals for that. How do I be better a spiritual husband? Make small goals for that. Same thing in parenting. No matter what it is, small goals, small goals, small goals for each section. Now, the biggest one to go over and to do this one, and this one's hard for everybody, including me, because I can get caught up in things. You know, I didn't go and post this post until a few minutes ago before I started. Whoosh. But it's something to remind you of. Work on it daily. Woo! You have to work on it daily. If you're not working on it daily, it doesn't go and happen. Do you know brushing your teeth doesn't go over and help you at all? That one action of 2 minutes brushing your teeth doesn't help. So you cumulatively brushing day after day after day after day. You miss a day and you're like, oh no, my teeth are going to fall out. But you go over and you don't do it cumulative for days and weeks and months. Oh no, whoosh, there's my teeth. They're not in my mouth anymore. So work on it daily. That's why we say small goals. Inch by inch is a cinch. Yard by yard is hard. So why go over and try to do it all at once? You're not going to be able to do that fiscally. The average American is 25 to 85,000, and you want to go and be a millionaire. You're like, I'm just going to invest it all in year 10. Year 1 to year 9, I'm going to blow it out. Doesn't work out well that way. The average person doesn't get a job between 6 and 9 months. You know, those things happen. So you need to work on it daily. And also sync up regularly to see progress. And I mean objectable progress. That's one of probably the hardest things we as Americans go over and do. We flog ourselves so much. We're like, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. I suck and everything blows and we just get caught in everything else. You got to let that go. It doesn't go over and work. I am the ultimate flogger. I can get negative. I can get pessimistic. We had a conversation just recently about me in school. Like, I get pessimistic. And you can have your say on what school goes over and does, but the thing is if you go over and you constantly flog, it can go constantly degrade. So let's sync up and see real progress. Objectable progress. If something sucks, you just got to call it the suck. But you don't call it suck if it's not suck. There's constructive criticism in between. I'm learning how to balance that up, but sync up to see real progress. So don't be like Eeyore and be like, oh, woe is me. Nothing's ever happened. I'm not awesome and all those things. And you're not the other person that's like, and you haven't even done anything on your list at all. You know, you got to be balancing between humility, which is actually seeing yourself where you're at. So if you're like, let's say Grant Cardone, you close out 45,000 apartments and you 10x it in like 2 years, you can call yourself awesome because not many people go over and do that. But you're not saying like you're the best person on the planet. It's still being humble and saying, hey, you know, his team and everything else want to build that. And it's the same thing in marriage. It's a team effort to go over. So sync up to see progress, realistic progress. Here's another big one. Adjust and grow the vision regularly. You don't just go make the board in 2020 and say, this is what it's going to be in 2080. Things change, things pivot. Did you ever think you were going to be in virtual school? Did you ever think COVID was going to come? Did you ever think that there was going to be massive hurricanes and everything else? Did you ever think that 28 million Americans were going to go lose their job and whatnot? No. But when you look at the longevity of the thing, you need to go over and adjust and grow regularly, not just go over and pivot. Chaos, shift. No. You got to look at it in longevity. It's the same thing works in finances. Everybody goes over and says, it's a horrible year and everything's crashing. If you're pulling out your money today, it's the same thing if you take your vision of your marriage and the worst of the worst, sucks. If I took my vision board from 2013 when I was at the lowest of the low of my marriage and said, this is my marriage and this is the way it's always going to be. It's always going to blow. Wouldn't be having an awesome marriage now. Yes, I did 7 years of stupidity and hope that I don't do any more, but I'm probably going to have stupid moments. That means lacking knowledge and wisdom. Don't take it the social way because that's not the true definition. But I had a lot of lacking in knowledge and wisdom and acting out of that for 7 years. But if I rated my marriage at 2013 and said, my vision on my marriage is where it's at today and it's going to stay there forever and I'm never going to adjust, just hit the toilet and flush. So adjust and grow the vision regularly. You can't just go over and say 2020 is where my marriage is at. Yes, you have to accept on the things on where they're at, but you need to adjust and grow the vision regularly. And here's a challenge to go over and end it all is if comfortable and both of you agree, not just one, but both of you, ask another couple to help you accountable for your vision. When you usually have somebody holding you accountable on the outside, things usually happen more often. When you try to do it all by yourself, and just like us military veterans and first responders pull ourselves by the bootstraps, we're going to make it, we're going to keep doing this, I'm going to do this all on my own. Doesn't work in a military fashion, doesn't work in a business fashion, doesn't work in a team fashion, it doesn't work in a church fashion. Why would it work in your marriage by you going over and pulling your bootstraps and saying, I will carry the load for everybody? They'll snap. Eventually. We can carry a load for a long time in our marriages, but if we're just doing it on our own, we might find out other people that are struggling in that same area, or other people can keep accountable that have already gone through it before. You might figure out some tips and some tricks and might find out some things. Did you know there was sexual personality style? Whoa, you can watch some videos back and hear about that we talked about in other podcasts and learn like, wow, because that was revolutionary to me. If someone didn't expose me to that book, Body and Soul, and I'm not sure which couple it was, it makes sex a lot better. So, not saying you have to get all into that particular topic, but the thing is that if comfortable and both agree, ask another couple to keep you accountable. It might be just the financial piece. It might be just the parenting piece. It might be the spiritual piece. No matter what it is, that's going to help you huge. Because vision breathes life. It breathes life. It breathes joy. It breathes in everything we do. So why not in the bedroom? I know it sounds weird, but the thing is that the greatest visions in the bedroom will come out into the living room and come out into the boardroom. The ideas of vision, for example, before Jeff Bezos' divorce and debacle and everything else, came out of him and her having a great conversation. And then her investing into his vision, which then became their vision and lasted. But the thing is that vision went over and pivoted because it wasn't adjusted and regular. Like you look at 20, 25 years ago, on point, on sync, everything else. When you bring the vision in the bedroom and you're adjusting it regularly, it breathes life, it brings joy, and things come out of it. And lots of people can go prosper out of those visions, not just yours and yours alone. So let's change the script, everybody, in marriage and bring the vision to the forefront. And the forefront is the bedroom. we have it jacked up in the United States. We have it jacked up in most of the world that we tend to go over and look at the boardroom and say, if I fix the boardroom vision, everything goes over and flows. Screw that. Screw that message, rewrite the script, and realize that your vision in the forefront of bringing it into marriage is going to go over and rewrite the script. And there might be a lot of things that come out of this COVID season that changes for the better, because we kind of did it backwards for a long time, including myself. Not saying I'm any better. I'm just going over and taking my lessons that I've learned from and now live. And I hope that you learn from my lessons and go over and live. And that's what War Hero to Superhero is about. Transforming military veterans and first responders' lives from the bedroom to the boardroom. Not the other way. So our superhero challenge to you today is, where do you see your marriage in 2030? We're only thinking about a decade right now. I personally would have a challenge you. Where do you see your marriage 5, 10, 50 years from now? But I didn't want to go overload you. So where do you see your marriage in 2030? Plan the vision and share with our community. We'd love for you to connect, either if it's on Twitch, on Roku, Facebook, YouTube, wherever it's at. We'd love to hear comments. This is always a dialogue, never a monologue. I know I could go on forever, but you engage, I'm going to reciprocate back. That's my goal. And whoever is going over and working with us at War Hero to Superhero, that is our intention, is to go over and make it a dialogue, make it a conversation, go over and expand and to grow, and to take these topics and just drop like a little seed and then water it and see how it grows. So we want to thank you for going over and joining, no matter if you see us on Facebook, YouTube, and everything else. If you're going over and struggling in this area, every military veteran first responder gets 20 minutes free. We'd love to go over and connect with you. Connect with us on our social media. That's the best way to go over and get us. If you try to go to our website and there's a phone number, miss or lag, we're still working on the website a bit. But the best way to get us is social media. That doesn't change. And if you want to go over and want to start being that marriage superhero for as low as $5 a month, you can go to patreon.com/thrive not to survive to go over and to join that marriage superhero elite group. And you get pretty much asynchronous or synchronous, which means direct access to us. The first 1,000 get direct access to me. After that, it's one of my partners. And if you'd love to go and become a partner with us, either in the TV or in the podcasting world, and you have a podcast yourself, military veteran first responder, get with us. We're actually promoting 12 veteran/military shows. I think we're down to about 8 now, but we're going to start that next week, right after Labor Day, for the entire rest of the year. So if you want to go over and stream on our particular venues, we'd love to go and do that. And there will be a variety of shows that are on there. So just make sure you read the disclaimer if there's mature audiences that are going to do this. Some of our military veterans get really deep into some stuff, but the message is important. So just watch out when you're going over and watching. So if you have little kids watching our stream, we'll put there, we'll be like, hey, for mature audiences, just so you know. So thank you for going over and joining. Thank you for going over and connecting. Thank you for the likes and loves. Please go over and share this on a regular basis. If you connect on Podopolo, gamify your podcast and go over and connect with us in a new, tangible, digital way. And we want to thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow back in the bedroom talking about vision in the bedroom, another concept to go over and help you grow. Thanks. Bye.